It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Yeah, I mean you. There's probably just one of you here. Maybe more. Maybe. How are you? I hope you had a great weekend. It's Monday here in the Amok closet. And, we're past the time when, people are starting to take their Christmas trees down like, like right after Christmas Day, right? And so if you're still hanging on to your Christmas tree and hanging on to your decorations, you are a diehard. You are a die. But look, it's free country, right? But I've taken down my garland. It's just me and my gong and you on this Emil Amok's Takeout. I call it the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs. You know who you are. Or the ALLs, all the rest of you. If you do not pledge an affiliation with the aforementioned, then you're just all the rest of us. You're welcome. You're welcome here. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live. This is a live stream, our way of combating the virus and avoiding real work. No, our way of avoiding doing things safely, right? We have the prophylactic of Zoom. We're here breathing our own air. As I was saying last week, I actually canceled a thing that I was going to do on Sunday. I canceled. I said I can't go to the theater. I don't want to breathe people's, even though they're vaccinated, they approve. They got to go in and prove it. But there's a lot of aerosols out there, folks, and the case rates are just exploding. So I feel I mention it only because I made the choice on my own. I'm not locking down. I'm not locking down waiting for a mandate. In the name of public health, I am here with you. And it is good to be here. We talk about the news. We ask the question, WDAAT, what does an Asian American think? What does an Asian American think about what? Well, stop AAPI hate. We're going to talk about a situation today. We're going to talk about the Bronx, that horrific fire. And I'm sensitive to smoke. I mean, we're all sensitive to smoke. We're not supposed to breathe it in. But I have this strange smoke hallucinating thing going on. It's actually, there's a name for it. It's called phantosmia. It's not like I can smell your toes from afar or anything like that. It actually is an olfactory hallucination, if you can understand that. You believe you're smelling something. I would have been a wreck in that Bronx building because I would have smelled smoke all the time. I have this thing where I smell smoke. I can't imagine people on the 19th floor, and there was the fire was on the 3rd floor. 17 people dead. Eight of them kids. They revised that number, and most all of them this was an apartment building in the South Bronx where everyone was from Gambia. And this is modern immigration, the way it works today in 2022. In the old days, from my experience on the West Coast, Filipinos would come from the Philippines. They'd find themselves on the West Coast. They'd say, "Oh, Manong boy lives there. We're going to live near him," and we're going to live near Manong baby, and that's how you get communities. This in New York, in the South Bronx, this was the Gambian community, and they were terrible fire. The Asian American community, not just in New York, but everywhere, in solidarity with the victims. A horrible, horrible tragedy. Space heaters. It's what happens when it's cold, the space heaters, and then the smoke. Let's hope those people get the help they need. Don't be afraid to donate to the local charities there. If you're in New York City, if you're anywhere, they need basic things in the Bronx. All right, so I mentioned the coronavirus idea that I'm locking down on my own. I'm not waiting for an employer mandate. I'm not waiting for someone to say, "Oh, you should lock down. We're making it official." I'm just doing it on my own in the name of public health. And you can go to the numbers. You can go to the New York Times or the Washington Post, and you can see where we are currently. And where we are is not good. It's not good. And right now they're beating up on the CDC. They're beating up on Rochelle Walensky, the doctor who has medical degrees, but she doesn't have a marketing degree. So people are beating up on the messaging. Actually, that's where you beat up on the former journalists who are part of the communications departments and what they're not doing. But I want to share with you something I got from a friend. And this gains entry into the show because it's from an Asian American friend who is well connected. He was in on a call from the director of international infectious disease at big time Mass General Hospital. And here are some of the things that my friend, and I know it's legit because part of it's in Chinese translated. But I want to share this with you because I don't get a chance. I mean, this show exists because we are the antidote to all the BS about, non-vaxxing and that kind of thing. A lot of the non-vaxxers are dying, by the way. And that's always been the case for the last year. But it's happening now that Omicron is spreading and the people who are in the hospitals are basically the unvaccinated. So I read this as a public service, as something that I can share with you. I mean, I take it, I'm skeptical, but most of what I'm getting from this note jives with what I'm hearing from the good doctors in the media, like Dr. Jha out of Brown, formerly of Harvard, all the Dr. Gupta, all the medical doctors on the media. And this is what this director of international infectious disease at Mass General had to say. Close to 100% of the positive cases in Massachusetts are Omicron. Delta is almost completely gone from New England. It's going to be it's going to be unique based on where you are. That's the case in Massachusetts. I know where I am in California. There are people still getting Delta, people still dying from Delta, not Omicron. But this is a case, this is the situation in Massachusetts. Second point, this surge will peak sometime between 110 and 121 and then begin a quick downhill journey of 2 to 4 weeks. So here we are in 110. We should be seeing a decline or a peak. It could go up between 110 and 121. Depends on how active people are in terms of, the spread. But when you're dealing with positivity rates and the spread of like 20 to 50%, then that peak may be later than sooner. But once we reach a peak, then it's a quick downhill journey of 2 to 4 weeks. We haven't peaked yet. Here's number 3. We will end up with a 20 to 50% positivity rate, which is still a lot of spread. 5% or under is considered good. 5% is like the threshold of watch out and be concerned. So when they say a positivity rate of 20 to 50%, not great, right? Number 4, February will be cleanup mode. March will begin to return to normal. Number 5, Omicron lives in your nose and upper respiratory area, which is what makes it contagious, which is why those rapid antigen tests, that's why they dig around up there. Omicron lives there. It isn't able to bond with your lungs like the other variants. Number 6, the increased hospitalization should be taken with a grain of salt. That's what the notes here say, as most of them are secondary admissions, i.e. people coming in for surgery, broken bones, who are tested for COVID. Number 7, we won't need a booster for Omicron because they wouldn't be able to develop one before it's completely gone, and we're all going to get it, which will give us the immunity we need to get through it. I'm reading into this saying, well, this is sort of life evolving, taking care of itself, although it's costing us 850,000 lives in America, at least. And it would have happened a lot sooner if we had all gotten at least vaccinated against Delta. But Omicron, they're saying you probably won't need a booster because it's going to take too long to develop. Number 8, COVID will join the 4 other coronaviruses we deal with that cause the common cold, the upper respiratory infections we get, RSV, etc. It will become a pediatric disease mainly affecting young children with no immunity, which is why we have to look at things, and this is my opinion now, why you have to look at things like sending kids back to school before they're all vaccinated. It's critical because they're the ones who don't have any built-up immunity. And according to the note that I'm reading here from, which once again comes from Mass General, the director of an international infectious disease, a friend who was in on a meeting, it seems like Omicron's going to become a pediatric disease, which is why we need to take care of the kids. Full speed ahead there. Adults should get vaccinated too. The normal double vax and the booster, the normal boosters. There are breakthrough cases, and again, when celebrities get breakthroughs, that's a big deal. I just heard that Savannah Guthrie was celebrating her 50th birthday and then got coronavirus, or she was tested positive. If it's a breakthrough case, it would appear that it's not a death sentence, but at this stage, we don't know. And it would be better not to get sick than to be sorry, right? So COVID, if you're thinking after you hear this note where I say COVID will join the 4 other coronaviruses we deal with that cause the common cold, etc. COVID's the uncommon cold. COVID, we are learning about as we go along. And we're learning that the symptoms of Omicron, right, the new variant, aren't as serious. But I think it's still more prudent to stay in and not be susceptible to anything if you can help it. Matter of public health. Here's number 9. 40% of those infected will be asymptomatic. 40% asymptomatic, meaning you may seem normal, but you may be able to spread Omicron to other people unwittingly, which is why you wear a mask, to keep whatever you do or don't have from infecting other people. Once again, public health. Number 10, rapid tests, 50 to 80% sensitive to those with symptoms. Only 30 to 60% sensitive to those without symptoms. Interesting. It means if you have symptoms, that's when you test, because you got a 50 to 80% chance that you'll get the correct answer. But if you don't have symptoms, it's only 30 to 60% sensitive. So, take the rapid test, the antigen test, the 15-minute test, the ones you can get online when available. Take them when you can, but only if you're showing symptoms. Number 11, contact tracing is worthless because we're all going to get it, and there's no way we can keep up with it. That's a note here. Number 12, we are fighting the last war with COVID and should be pivoting back to normal life, but society isn't quite ready for it yet. I think that's kind of optimistic. Note number 13, there is no need to stay home from work or to be a hermit unless you're immunocompromised or 85 or older, but he does recommend staying away from large gatherings for the next 6 weeks. So that's kind of it's a sort of like, yeah, be positive, but look, we don't know when we're peaking. And go back to the earlier note, he says we're going to peak sometime between January 10th and January 21st. We're still about a week or so away from that. I say don't rely on mandatory lockdowns or employer mandates. Be responsible. Think of not just yourself, but your fellow community member. Think public health. And then, totally optimistically, they believe that spring and summer will be better because they really feel that after the peak of Omicron, it's going to follow likely like South Africa, and things will come back to a kind of normal beginning in maybe March, April. But that's these are notes. Like I said, a friend of mine was in on a call with the director of international infectious disease at Mass General, sent me this note. I share it with you as a public service to give you information that I trust. If you are distrustful of the CDC guys and distrustful of all the doctors and the media, I know that what I just read you falls in line pretty much with the top docs that are interviewed by all the news media. But you know, I share this with you because I got it. And if it's helpful, if it makes you feel more confident about choices you make, that's good. I think, though, this is for Massachusetts, and it's going to be different place to place. Like I know where I am in California, there are still people contracting coronavirus from Delta and dying from Delta. It's not all like Omicron yet, but it's becoming that way in California. In California, they're saying maybe 80% Omicron, but there's some people in some parts of the state, it's a big state, just getting Delta 2 for the first time. So I wanted just to share some Omicron news. Not that, you know, like I said, I didn't go to one thing this weekend because I was still concerned. And I know I made the right decision, not just for myself, but for other people. If I'm asymptomatic and I'm spreading things, like, you know, there's this way that you kind of triangulate to get at the right answer for you. You know, you consider what the scientists are saying. You consider what you're seeing in news reports. Then you make your own assessment about what kind of risk you want to take. And then you make your own assessment if the football game is better with me or without me? If life is better with me or without me? If going to dinner in a restaurant is better, because is that worth it? Is that worth the risk? Or is it worth the risk to like have another homemade tofu salad at home? I think the tofu wins out. I definitely think the tofu wins out. So, other things in the news I want to talk about. Yao Pan Ma. Do you know yet the name Yao Pan Ma? Yao Pan Ma is an Asian man. He was injured last April. He was collecting cans on a corner up in where he lived in New York City. He'd lost his job collecting cans to try to help out make the rent. The 50-year-old suspect, Jared Powell, allegedly approached him from behind, struck him in the back, kicked him in the head multiple times, and Ma was on the ground. Police had arrested Powell and charged him with attempted murder and 2 hate crimes. Now, the New York City police announced on Saturday it's going to be a homicide. Because on Saturday, Yao Pan Ma died from his injuries. He passed away, according to a family spokesperson, on New Year's Eve, 10:30 p.m. That's when the hospital called on January 1st to say he passed away before the new year. Family spokesperson said his wife didn't get a chance to see him before he died because the hospital was short-staffed due to the holidays. And so now we have another victim of the whole Trump scapegoating, Kung flu, Asian flu, Yao Pan Ma. Let's not forget Yao Pan Ma. They kept him alive since last April. And then he died. Died on New Year's Eve. They just released the news on Saturday. Another thoughts and prayers moment. And now it's not going to be attempted murder against the perp, Jared Powell, the alleged perp. But now it will be homicide plus 2 hate crime attachments. I know that people on the internet are seeing it, and we forget these things. Some guy gets attacked, you don't see me. You just hope they get better. Yao Pan Ma was attacked in April, and now here it is, January. He was pronounced dead on December 31st, according to the family. You can remember Yao Pan Ma, M-A. There's a GoFundMe site that is intended to help the family. But another Stop AAPI hate situation, let's not forget it. Other stories here. A lot happened over the weekend that, I'm not even getting to the week yet, but that non-citizens' right to vote law that they passed in the New York City Council a couple weeks ago, it's finalized. The mayor, Eric Adams, allowed the bill to become law, and 800,000 non-citizens have the right to vote in municipal elections now in New York City. The statement of the mayor was, I believe that New Yorkers should have a say in their government, which is why I have and will continue to support this important legislation. I look forward to bringing millions more into the democratic process. This is good news. It means as of January 9th, 2023, an estimated 808,000 adults will be eligible to vote. January 9th, 2023. So it's going to take a year. Hang in there. But you will have a right to vote in primary and general elections for citywide contests like the mayor and public advocate and city council and borough presidents. You can't vote in state and federal elections because the law doesn't allow non-citizens to vote there. But remember, a non-citizen is a person with a green card, a person who pays taxes, a person who is your neighbor perhaps. And the fact that these people have been shut out really has been a limitation that is undemocratic. And now we have other states that are considering, well, other states do allow non-citizens to vote, but New York is the largest. I know in San Francisco, they let non-citizens vote for school board, but this is important because you can vote for the highest office in the city of New York. So non-citizens' right to vote becomes law in New York City. That's a big deal. Joe Biden is going to be talking about voting rights this week. He's going to Atlanta. We'll follow that. ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, is actively trying to make sure that a unity map, that the commission that was in charge of approving maps sort of balked at first. But they're going to have a big press conference tomorrow. I'll have some information on that. But after January 6th, when we fear that, democracy was being threatened, here's a positive. Here's a positive that you can say, okay, yeah, democracy is threatened, but here's a small positive. 800,000 gained a vote by January 9th, 2023. Because of that law that was passed in New York City. A couple of other things. I have to admit, I was kind of football this weekend. I mean, whenever the 49ers play the Los Angeles Rams, that's a big deal because that's a rivalry that goes back, to my childhood days. And what do you know? The Rams had the first Filipino-American quarterback, Roman Gabriel, hurling touchdown passes. And I'd never seen a big Filipino in pads like Roman Gabriel. But he was kind of like, he was like a Filipino football god. We just don't have those, right? I mean, Tua Tagovailoa is Samoan, I believe, out of Hawaii and Alabama, played for University of Alabama. Go Crimson Tide tonight, by the way. Are you a Georgia fan? I like any Crimson. Yeah, that's just me. But there really hasn't been an Asian footballer quite like Roman Gabriel. And so you would think I'm kind of partial to the Rams, but I'm not. I'm a 49er fan. I grew up in San Francisco. So imagine this weekend. You had the Rams and the 49ers. You had the Raiders, formerly of Oakland, now of Las Vegas. Two large Asian American communities, right? Raider fans. They were playing the Chargers in San Diego. Well, formerly of San Diego, now also Los Angeles. So I would say 100% of Asian American football fans around the nation were just watching football all weekend on Sunday. First, the 49er game, which was spectacular because the 49ers, it was really Catholic in a way because the 49ers came back from the dead. They were dead at halftime, down 17-0. They look like, forget it, they're not, it was over, right? And Jimmy Garoppolo, he was hurt. They come back in the second half, and it was a tremendous game to tie it up at the end in regulation, and then a comeback in overtime to win. A great game for the 49ers. On the road in SoFi Stadium, the home of the Rams. They gave it to them. And, it was a good game because, look, it was a game solely for pride because the 49ers and the Rams, well, the 49ers had to win. The Rams are going to go into the playoffs no matter what. They're whether they won or lost. But the 49ers had to win. They won. They're in. That was a great game. And, there were some moments, if you're Asian American, they got the Rams, the first half, which was all Rams. There was an Asian American guy named Tyler Rapp, who's half Chinese. And Tyler Rapp intercepted a pass. And I thought, oh my God, this is terrible. This is the end of the 49ers. Ye of little faith, right? But they came back, all right? Otherwise, I'd be talking all about Tyler Rapp and not about the 49ers. Anyway, the 49ers won. All my Chinatown and Richmond District friends who are 49er fans in San Francisco, they're all happy. All the Filipino 49er fans, they're happy. But the big game was yet to come. Oakland Raiders versus the LA Chargers. Notice, I still call them San Diego Chargers because I have a lot of friends in San Diego that are sort of heartbroken, but they cheer for these SoCal Chargers. Tough game. Here's the thing. The way it worked out in the standings, if they tied, both teams would go into the playoffs. Think about that. If they tied, the prospects of a tie actually was talked about. Everyone knew it, that if they tied, they'd go in. And they were battling to see who would win the game because they got to play the game. But they got into overtime, and the Chargers tied the game on the last play of regulation. And so now they go into overtime, and the Raiders are, they are in a position where they could let the clock run out, and they could just go for the tie in overtime. It's happened. I mean, it's not quite like the friendly marathon runners falling and then one helping the other and then cross the finish line alone. But it would be kind of that way. And all of them, both teams would advance into the playoffs. However, if the Raiders won, the Chargers would be eliminated. And that caused the controversy because with 30 seconds left, the Chargers called a timeout as the Raiders were driving toward getting into field goal range. And the Chargers called a timeout. And it made the Raiders think, well, wait a minute, why are they doing that? Don't they want the clock to... So that was the question. What kind of stupid bumble-headed move was that on the part of the Chargers to call the timeout, just let the clock run out? And the Raiders are saying, well, if they want the clock stopped, maybe they want the ball and they want to kick the field goal to win and break the tie their way. So the Raiders took the ball, got in better field goal position, then kicked the field goal and won the game. And now the Raiders are in. The Chargers, by virtue of losing, not tying, they're out of the playoff picture. And some people are calling this one of the greatest regular season games ever. I don't know, but once again, Asian American football fans were treated to some great games yesterday. San Francisco and LA, the Raiders and LA. Between the four teams, you probably have 100% of all Asian American football fans, not just in California, but in the nation. I think a unique thing, and actually a kind of a nice antidote to all the kind of, not so great news that we get, on a weekend where we're still fighting Omicron, on a weekend where we're mourning the loss of celebrities. We had the Sidney Poitier death last week. Over the weekend, people mourned the passing of Bob Saget, the America's Funniest Home Videos guy. I like Bob Saget. I thought he was a great comedian. I liked him better as a comedian than as an actor or as a show host. He was known for a really salty, off-color act before he hit it big. But everyone in social media, those who knew him well, are saying what a guy he was. He was a guy. My friends who knew him well, I'll praise him to the person. They just say, gone too soon. And, when they say gone too soon, it's starting to hit me. Gone too soon. These guys are around, we're roughly in the same age category there. I'll say gone too soon. I'm doing a number of things. First of all, people who are regular watchers of this live stream know that the live stream, this, is different from Emil Amok's Takeout, the non-live stream. Emil Amok's Takeout, which I put out on wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Apple. And we got a new episode dropping this week on environmental justice and the importance of environmental justice, one community at a time. We're focusing on the Little Manila Rising, their Dawn Project, DAWN. So look for that dropping Wednesday, Thursday. But before, I want you to check out Emil Amok's Takeout episode 104, which will be dropping, well, it's up there now. And I was going to try to put a little video clip, but I can't because I have to figure out where the heck it is on the on my console here. So I'll do that tomorrow. But it's a good video. It's about the trauma of studying your American colonial history. And when I say American colonial history, I don't mean studying, the red coats versus the blue coats and one if by land and two if by sea. I'm talking about the Americans who went to the Philippines and subjugated the Filipinos, and how, as a Filipino student, what that's like to experience that. So that, I'll play the clip, and if you get a live stream, I'll play the video clip of it. Interesting conversation with a student there who is learning this for the first time and how she felt. Check that out tomorrow. All right, so we're kind of winding down. Can I tell you about the thing I'm doing at StageBridge? StageBridge is a performance organization, an arts and performance organization dedicated to helping people, how should we say this, develop their third act. Be in the arts, right? And so I teach a course for people like that. I've taught a course on telling stories, like moth-style stories, to regale your friends and family and strangers. But I'm expanding it, making it a little more, not necessarily a little more difficult, but I'm expanding to include not just moth-style stories, but stories, memoir, autobiography. I'll tell you how to create the narrative of your lives. If you have more than one, narrative of your life, because you have just one, but you have many, 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 many memories. And I'll tell you how to do that. Just go to stagebridge.org, stagebridge.org, and check out the offering. If it suits you, come join. If not, continue watching this live stream or tell your friends. You can also go to amok.com. There's a little thing there. amok.com is where you can find us. You can Twitter us at Emil Amok. You can go to amok.com and get some notices, see a couple of stories I tell, a couple of performances. I don't think I have any performances, like 5-minute clips or 5-minute stories. And then you'll see these live streams housed there. So check that out. As I said, my name is Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you. You can email me if that's your speed. Emil@amok.com. I call this the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs because it is. We are the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs. And, and we are relevant to all the rest of you too. Because there's 23 million of us. Don't you want to know WDAAT? What does an Asian American think? We'll tell you. So you can read my column at the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. That's aaldef.org/blog. ALDEF, it's the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. Before I leave, I do like to take a quick scan of the news because you just never know what's out there. Oh, Robert Durst, real estate scion and convicted killer, dies at 78. They made all this fuss about Durst. They made stories and the story of his life. HBO did a big thing. And because it's true crime. People are into true crime. And he was a true criminal. Found guilty in September, sentenced to life in prison. People were wondering, where is Robert Durst? Well, Robert Durst happened to be in Stockton, California. And that's where he died at age 78. They brought him to the San Joaquin County General Hospital. New York Times reported his death this morning. couple other things to consider. 8 at-home tests a person per month to be covered by insurers. U.S. says 8. They'll allow you to take 8 tests. That's 4 of those little packets because there's 2 in a packet. Each packet is about $18 to $20. So they'll cover 8. So 4 packets, 4 times 20, $80 worth. That's kind of cheap. Come on, insurers. People who provide their insurance information will be able to get the test with no out-of-pocket costs at some pharmacies. So 8 will be covered. Come on, we need a little more than that. We need some support. Of course, what they're trying to do is they're trying to prevent people from taking the tests and then selling them on eBay. You don't think people would do that, do you? Oh, they might. They might. You know, they shouldn't. They should. In fact, they should ban that. You can't resell them unless you're an authorized reseller or something. I saw Javier Becerra, the human services guy, saying 500 million tests are coming, in addition to the 200 million that was promised by Biden the other day. So we should have all the tests we need to make us feel comfortable about going out, because that's what we need to know. We'll stay at home if we're infectious, but we want to get out there, right? For the most part. We want to know if someone is going to pass it on. And one of the problems is we'll get false negatives sometimes. So it's not absolutely, positively foolproof. But testing is a good idea. The more tests, the better. And the more tests that are free, the better. A couple other things. One last thing I want to mention. Man receives a heart from a genetically altered pig. I see. This is sort of like the Holy Grail, because so many people need organs, right? They need organs, and they don't have a good supply because they got to get it from human organ that matches. Wouldn't it be nice if science could develop a real organ that could help out people who need them? One problem, basic science, your body will reject any organ that's not native, it's not human. So science, being the smart guys they are, say, hey, we're going to genetically alter a pig to try to fool the body. That's the first mistake. That's always the first mistake. You try to fool the body, your body knows. Your body knows. Look, here's the thing. I don't know how much it costs them to do this. First of all, they have to genetically alter the pig, and then they have to get the pig's organs, right? And then they have to test it on someone. Who do you test it on? Well, how about a terminal patient? Is that fair? I mean, I guess you could sell it. You could sell it on, hey, you could be a hero. But you got to know the circumstances or the consequences. Most of the time, your body rejects these things. A terminal patient might be willing to take that chance. I'm just saying, here's my ideal. Instead of getting people to a point where they need a new organ, a new kidney, a new heart, a new whatever. Most people die of heart disease in America. Sad but true. And when you talk about people dying of COVID, we're talking about avoidable death, right? COVID could be avoided with the right kind of policy and the right kind of information. But when you think about it, it's all avoidable death. Heart disease, avoidable. It's all avoidable, or a vast majority of it. What if instead of spending all the money on genetically altering pigs so that we can have genetically altered organs to all these sick people who ate the pigs, the real pigs in the first place, that gave them the disease, that made their hearts fail, that made them require the genetically altered pig? Why don't we just teach them how to eat better, how to eat a diet that won't put them in a position where their heart's falling apart, they're going to die of heart disease? Why don't we just teach them to be healthy? They don't have to be vegans. There are people who just eat healthy and don't contract heart disease. Look, I'm a Filipino. I know about heart disease. I got a family that we have heart disease for days. That's why I have extra motivation to be a vegan. But you can reverse heart disease. You can reverse diabetes. You can reverse all those things by applying a diet that aids and that qualifies as preventive care. That's more efficient. Like I said, spending all these millions of dollars to get a genetically altered pig to produce a genetically altered organ to give to a sick man who ate real pigs in the first place, we got to fix that equation. That doesn't sound like sound health policy. Okay, I'm getting myself worked up again. Sometimes I go into those news scans and I say, oh, well, what else is happening? Oh my God, they're genetically altering a pig and giving that to a human being who's terminally ill. What are the ethics there? Okay, I shall calm down. Hey, welcome to show 219. Or thank you for being here, part of show 219. 220 tomorrow. We've done 220 of these. Check out our show on amok.com. Check it out on Facebook, emilguillermo.media. As well as, I think it's on Facebook Watch for a while, but you can check it out on emilguillermo.media. And also, you can check it out on the YouTube channel, the fledgling YouTube channel. We're like a handful of people, and not just my relatives, but a handful of people. Check it out on YouTube. It's Emil Guillermo, or Emil Amok, on the YouTube channel. Hey, I got a clarification. Type 2 diabetes can be lessened or reversed. Type 2. See Dr. Neil Barnard's work if you want information. Type 1 diabetes, not lessened or reversed with diet, but probably helped. But we're talking, once again, about type 2 diabetes. Okay, so there's always fact checkers around here. You know, and we appreciate the fact checkers. All right, we've reached this part of the show where if you are this far in, thank you. Give yourselves an elbow hug. You belong. You really belong. You're worthy. Don't be shamed. Don't be shamed. Don't be ashamed. Know that on the other side of that door of shame, if you push it open, it's a door of love. Self-love. Be kind to yourself. It works. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. And may you be safe. May you be healthy. may you be happy, and may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till tomorrow. Mahal.